This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
No, time flies, dude. I can't believe that it's been 5 years since you and I first clicked record. And this show, Royal Rumble 2017, is pretty special because behind the scenes, you and I had just recorded the Goldberg episode, and we would be dropping our very first What Happened When the day after this show dropped. And I was actually at the show in San Antonio. I think this was my second ever Royal Rumble. I went to the one in 2002, and then I found myself 15 years later here at this one in 2017 in San Antonio. But I had been dating Megan for only 5 months.
Oh,
This was our first trip with both of our girls. She flew in from Charlotte. I flew in from Huntsville. And as I'm seated there in the audience, I get a text from you that says, "Thanks to you, I know who the fuck Big Cass is. I'll never forgive you for this."
yeah. I remember distinctly. I can remember really the journey that began that day, or actually around that month, for you and I, or really for me, and my return to wrestling. And this plays a significant part in that because you had suggested. You said somewhat. I don't know the exact wording. That are you watching? Have you started watching wrestling again? And I went, nah. And you went, it may be a good idea for you to start watching it so you can at least get back into it. So I said, okay. And I started watching the Royal Rumble, and then of course from there, the podcast grew, and I was still working at Starbucks at that time, and from there, by the time 2018 rolled around, over a year later, I think it was March of 2018, I gave up Starbucks because I didn't need it anymore in my life, because of you, and because of this podcast, and then from there, obviously. I met Tony Khan, and he liked what we were doing, and here we are today. So it's amazing what 5 years can do in someone's life. And I just I think back on that when I talk about the time that I first started watching Royal Rumble. And I also think about this being Royal Rumble of 2017, that the Royal Rumble of 1990 that 27 years prior to that, I had done the play-by-play for with Jesse Ventura. So
It's crazy, man.
yeah, a lot of memories in this show. Really is, in many ways.
I want to ask, back then when you and I first started recording, we were trying to pay for a Schiavone to drop her last name. And slowly but surely, a lot of things would change in your life. As you mentioned, you would have a job change and be able to move on from some things and put your toe back in the water in wrestling with MLW. And we'd start doing some live shows, and What Happened When would continue to grow. And then we did a control center, sort of mocking the new WWE Starcade in the old style. And Tony Khan would see that before AEW was ever even formed. We go do the very first Starcast, and Tony Khan is paying attention to what's happening at All In. And just a few months after that, AEW was born. I go hang out at Cody's house around Super Bowl weekend, and they make a big old steak for you on Cody's new big green egg, and I save you a seat next to Tony Khan, and you Schiavone it.
Wow, I'm telling you, that's most of that line there is bullshit, but that's okay.
What?
It's a good story.
What was bullshit?
They didn't make a steak for me and save a seat for me beside Tony Khan.
I did all that.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much for that. That was so generous of you.
It didn't work out, but thankfully,
I would have shown up at Cody's house that night, and they would have looked at me and say, "What are you doing here?"
sometimes you got to take your shot, Tony.
You know what Tony Khan said after that too, don't you? Do you
What?
remember?
No.
Well, I was in Tony's office, and I had just agreed to the deal down in Jacksonville.
Is this when y'all called me on speaker?
Yeah, I called you on speaker.
Yeah.
That's right. It's funny. It's funny when at my first big moment, I don't call my wife, I call Conrad. And got on speaker, and Tony said, "Well, it's probably good he didn't come that night because he's probably gotten more. He got more money today than he would have gotten back then."
I remember that.
So anyway, yeah, that was when we called you on speaker. But anyway, so that was during Super Bowl weekend too, I think.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big time because you and I had just been. We did a live show,
Yeah.
and then we wound up at a show or an indie show that a friend of ours was promoting,
Right.
and that's where we ran into the real life Ron Reese, who used to play the Yeti.
Yeah.
Man, it was a fun time.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.